Welcome back to the London Food Network podcast, the show where we dive deep into the stories behind London's most exciting food and drink businesses, from kitchen table startups to full-scale success stories. I'm your host, Sebastian Candelon, founder of the Fresh Fish Shop and Embrace AI Consultancy, where we help ambitious food brands and wholesalers scale smarter through automation and innovation. Today, I'm joined by someone who perfectly embodies the entrepreneurial spirit of this food scene. Ben, the founder of Bloody Ben's, the award-winning gin and Bloody Mary mix brand, and also the creator of OnAPlateGrowth, where he helps food and drink businesses grow their sales and visibility too. Ben's story is fascinating, from bartending and brand building to becoming a coach to founders who are trying to navigate the challenging and ever-changing industry. We're going to explore how he's built two successful brands, the lessons he's learned along the way, and the insights on what really drives growth in food and drink. Ben, welcome to the London Food Network. Great to have you here.
That's an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Sebastian. What a lovely intro as well. It's very, very nice. Thank you.
No problem. Of course. I've got to introduce you properly, isn't it? I think you've done a great job. I mean, two different businesses, very different businesses, but I guess very much in sync and complementing each other, right?
Yeah, well, I think that's part of it. Like when I try and do things, I try and make them, if I can, sort of interconnected, interlinked, so they all kind of benefit each other. So Bloody Ben's the Bloody Mary mix, for example, I'm trying to get listings like other people are trying to get listings, trying to sell it online, trying to use social. So you get that direct experience, which is, and then if I'm helping clients, it's mutually beneficial. We're passing each other information. We're kind of like, I might know that person over there. So it's trying to make it interlinked. And also, to blow my own trumpet, there's one other thing which I do with my friend Lizzie is we run these in-person networking events in Brighton we do it under the umbrella of Best Before. And so that's kind of all interlinked as well. Weirdly, There wasn't any gatherings for food or drink people in Brighton. Makes no sense. So we were like, I was like, Lizzie, is there? And she was like, there's none. And so we decided to do our own. And so it's, bringing those people all in together. And it's all interrelated, and it benefits Bloody Ben's, it benefits OnAPlateGrowth, but also it's just, hopefully it benefits everyone, because the more connections, the more people we know, the more that we can help each other. And that's kind of my outlook. It's like interlink things and almost, it's not gatekeeping, but it's sort of growing together. And that's kind of my overall sort of ethos for the whole thing, I think.
Well, I guess they kind of agree, like all three different ventures, they feed into each other. And at the same time, I guess it gives you a good testing ground for what you consult with in terms of making the Bloody Mary brand successful, right? Because all of the skills that you're using to kind of elevate that and get it to market and make it profitable are exactly the kind of tools you're going to find clients to consult with and help with their problems, right?
And also I think, you'll know this when you're running your business, a lot of it is often you're in your own little world, in your silo, and you're often thinking, oh, I don't know how that works, or am I really silly for not knowing that? But no one else has this problem. And of course, when you're out and about, you realize that many people have that same challenge. But it's directly helpful to sort of speak to more people. And again, that's a two-way thing. So, if I'm working with some consultancy clients, I've got that direct experience. And then for Bloody Ben's as well, you have the direct experience. So, and it might be, so I might benefit from something going, oh, there was that really cool promotion. I might try that out for my own thing. But you're just getting information in, and you're able to pass on information and test it out. So it could be a really nice experiment. So someone, you might be made aware of something.
Excuse me.
Maybe someone tells you some really cool AI automation. Sebastian, don't know who could do that, for example. And then you think, all right, well, I can give that a go, but I could be my own guinea pig for that. So I'll test that out on Bloody Ben's, for example, and then be like, oh, okay, I've learned how to do that. So it also shortens some of the learning curves for clients.
Yeah.
And just makes your conversations more relevant, more interesting, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, making it more relevant. I think that's, I think the issue a lot of kind of consultancies have, or coaches, or, like I've had business coaches before to help me through growth. And the problem with most of them is this, it's kind of like this, it's kind of like off the shelf product, right? That kind of one size fits all. And, you come in and you're excited and you're expecting all these great things. And then they try and implement these systems that are so generalized. And there's absolutely no tailor-made kind of approach, which I think is huge, especially for small, medium-sized businesses. That's exactly what we need. We need something that's a lot more personal, a lot more kind of almost custom built. And I think having that broad range of experience like you have, and I guess I have, I think just creates a much better outcome for the person, and a stronger kind of relationship and trust.
Yeah, and it is that context, relevant context, isn't it? Because it's kind of like, if you read lots of cases, the classic is, oh, and Nike did this, and you're like, with their $20 million budget or whatever it might have been. So it's just not relevant. You can't replicate lots of the things. Doesn't mean you can't be inspired by the creativity and do a version of, but it's quite challenging if everyone's always pointing to these bigger things. You're like, well, actually, I've got no budget, literally none, but I want to get into, the deli down the road. How do I go about it? Or how do I get into more delis? And it's like, how do you create that groundswell from the beginning? And it's knowing that, isn't it? It's like, well, you might want to gift some product to someone there. Actually, if you ask the deli, they'll be very happy for you to do a sampling session. Why don't you DM someone on LinkedIn? That's often a good way, because they're like, oh, they're ignoring my emails. But often the owner of a place is at the other end of Instagram, for example. So just sort of knowing that, or in my case, I might say, look, I know them anyway. I'll drop them a line for you. But it is that relevant context, I think, isn't it? Which, as you say, it can be so frustrating. I remember working, in a proper job, and occasionally consultants would come in. And you think, wow, you're being paid an app. In those days as well, they were paid over the odds. And you think, well, you don't understand my day-to-day struggles. So it's really frustrating, actually. And, in a bigger company, the management, like, it's going to be brilliant. You're thinking, they've got absolutely no idea of what's going on. You don't understand our day-to-day challenges. And I think it's just reassuring, isn't it? That, if you can have that conversation about your proper frustrations and your proper sort of pain points. And there's different people for different levels, so I can help someone at one level, and at some stage it's time to pass the baton on. And as you scale up, as much as I might be able to give you some very generalist advice about sort of doing well in a supermarket, but it's not the same as, someone who's absolutely smashed in supermarkets, for example, so I think there's different levels of knowing when to gear up. But I think it's that sort of hands-on support, but also, I don't want people to waste their money. It's really easy to spend your money. That's what I always say to people. It's so easy to spend your money, but it's really precious as well. And also it's the cash which will keep you in the game for long enough. And a lot of it in small business is about longevity. If you can stick at it for long enough, your time may well come, but you've got to find a way to engineer that. So don't spend all your money too quickly.
Yes, absolutely. I think food and drink especially is exactly like that. Unless you've got a ton of money behind you,
Yes.
the way to bring success really to any food and drink industry is just time, grit, time, perseverance, patience,
And
all in the right
that's,
mix.
and sometimes that's an uncomfortable truth, isn't it? It's also quite unglamorous, but we're surrounded, aren't we, by that not being the case. So if we, if we logged onto LinkedIn, most of it would be like, just got listing in Whole Foods, amazing, Tesco's coming on next month. You're like, wow, this is brilliant. But you feel that pressure. You think, goodness, right, well, I'm behind. I've got to get further ahead.
Exactly.
And then someone might pop in and go, well, if you spend this cash, you think, oh, okay. Right. So if I spend that and then that's spent, it's like, well, no, because you weren't quite ready, or, so it's very easy to be parted with one's cash, isn't it? And I'm sure we've both been parted with at some stage as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because, you'll try anything, isn't it? Especially when you're trying to grow and you're not 100% sure and you're just starting out. It's a very difficult landscape, and of course there are many businesses out there over promising and under delivering on the kind of things that you're trying to seek help with. And ultimately, a lot of it is going to happen through a bit of time, patience, and never be scared to try things, but just manage obviously your budget
Yeah.
as much as you can.
And I think it's interesting that as you sort of see the space over time, sometimes those ones that everyone's raving about, they sort of fizzle out. And it's partly because or when they do disappear and you find out, you think, oh my God, they were 5 million in debt. How the hell did they get to 5 million in debt? So you can sort of see those situations as well, where you feel like you're so envious of them, but you don't know the reality behind it.
And some of the success, like, yes, we're finally in, let's say, Whole Foods. Oh, well, we're in Whole Foods, great. How long did it take it to get there?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure it's been a journey, and that's, there's a lot of boxes to tick as well to be in Whole Foods, and distribution things to be aware of, then the margin cuts, and the demands then with the larger businesses where it's no longer about how you like to do things, it's more how they need things doing. So there's a lot more to it often than meets the eye.
And I think that another challenge, which you'll be really aware of, is actually the rate of sale when you get it listed in these places, it's not so game changing that the rate of sales, everything changes overnight. It's still actually, you'll sell more, but it's not like you're not doing thousands of units a week, are you? It's actually still quite small. So some of it's like almost at the trophy level of it, and it's great kudos and it's a badge of trust to get to grow the overall thing. But I think lots of people, you get your listing and you assume that's like the time when everything's going to rocket, and it's an opportunity to do that. But actually, in terms of actual units you're selling, in terms of then being able to pay yourself or hire lots of people, that moment may well not come. It may unlock an opportunity to get some investment, but it's probably not going to suddenly pay all of your bills and you can go and work remotely in Brazil or wherever it might be.
No. Although, I mean, I guess the only caveat to that is it depends on how many, like, for example, for us, because we produce over, for the seafood business, we produce over 300 products on our catalog.
Yeah.
So it means that if someone does take us on and they're taking a range, then that can have a significant impact for sure. But absolutely, if you're a brand that, let's say, produces, I don't know, oh, Bloody Ben's, for
Well,
example,
yeah.
there's only so many bottles you're going to sell, right? Because it's one product, one SKU going in, and then it's also been placed along a very competitive line of other SKUs, and therefore, of course, from that point of view, very different. So yeah, so that's the only caveat I'll put on there, is that it depends as well of what it is that you're listing with.
Yeah.
If you're listing with a variety of different SKUs, then of course the outcome can be different. And it depends as well the category you're going into. Some are way more competitive than others. And ones that are chilled often are very competitive because fridge space is limited, and therefore retailers are much more careful about what goes into those fridges, particularly shorter shelf life products. There's all these kind of
Yes.
considerations on the
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
product you sell and the impact you're going to have.
Yeah. I mean, I guess chilled is quite a challenge as well, isn't it? With those, in terms of that whole fulfillment piece as well. That always feels very challenging, that bit, getting that right.
Yeah, of course, because then you got logistics to think about, temperature control, packaging. Yeah. So let's go back in time a little bit, Ben, because I want to understand more about you, really. So, what was your past? What was your, what's your career kind of been like, and how has it led to today? Let's go through some of those steps.
Well, I guess I've always been, I've sort of come to realize a bit of an action junkie. So I like, I like things happening, which is probably why I sort of run 3 businesses at the same time, because I enjoy lots of stuff happening. But I used to work in I've always worked in online, and so you'd get the instant gratification of of a purchase happening, and you get to see that, or you send your email and you see you see the direct impact of that. So I've always loved that sort of side of things, but at the same time I used to get to go to lots of meetings and go to lots of bars and restaurants, and I always used to love the buzz of that, and I was always like, well, one day I want to go and open my own restaurant. But then they always say that's a bad bad place to be, and
Yeah, right.
that is a path that I went down. And I can sort of join that club of like, you may not, careful what you wish for. But we
Mhm.
made it work. We made it work for like 9 years. We had 2 restaurants, and out of the ashes of that came Bloody Ben's. And also to this day, I still meet people who went to the restaurants and have worked with people. And I guess you kind of have that bond of like, well, I trusted you to make me a great brunch with a Bloody Mary, so I kind of trust you to send some emails for me. Do you see what I mean? So, um, so it's nice that that's happened, but that's basically it. So it worked in online, but I wanted to be offline, and restaurants again tick that instant gratification. I love the buzz of like, you create a new menu, and that very night you will see the impact of that. It's suddenly people are like, oh my god, I love this new special burger, or I don't know, you put some dirty fries on. But it's also interesting, the unintended consequences, because you're like, well, this is it, we've cracked it, because that's the average order value is going to go up by, spend per head's going to go up by £1. All our problems are solved. But people then shop around because they're like, well, hang on, I don't want to spend 15, so I'm going to go, and perhaps another dish becomes more popular. But then you might be like, oh, that dish is actually not our best foot forward, but people are now buying it because the pricing is direct them to it. So it's unintended consequences. So then you're like, oh no, right, now I feel a bit exposed. So, I'm going to put some more attention on that product. So it's amazing how people, we sort of chase them around on a map a little bit. And also got to indulge, because I'm always happy to work hard. And I always felt like food and drink was a great space to be in because it's always exciting. It's always changing. There's always like another new
Mm,
product. Actually, a difficult thing is to say, well, not to say no, but to sort of balance, when products would come in, because you'd be like, oh, I really love that product or that sauce. So I went on holiday, came back, and I really want to get that onto the menu. And it's like, right, how do we actually manage to make that happen? But it was easy to be excited about. Do you see what I mean? Or like there's a new beer or there's a new, now it'd probably
yeah,
be,
yeah,
there's a new functional drink. And you're like, wow, now we've got this incredible range of soft drinks. But you see what I mean? Like there's all these sort of opportunities, but that's a much better place to be in than for me anyway, or than everything being the same all the time, barely any change, and you basically clock in and clock out. So it's kind of the excitement factor, and that's like a motivating thing. And so I guess in life, that's kind of what I'm always looking out for. Those opportunities to be like, oh wow, almost in a sense almost entertain yourself. Like, it's a bit tragic, isn't it? But you've only got one, you've only got one life. You may as well go for it.
no, absolutely,
And try
definitely,
and seek out exciting things without being, for me, balancing that without being too reckless. Got 3 kids, married, mortgage, all that kind of jazz. So there has to be some, doing it within the means of it. Can't go totally bonkers if you like. So it's managing that, and that's another juggle as well, isn't it? Sort of indulging what you want to do whilst also keeping things steady enough, and that's a discipline as well. I don't know, how do you struggle? Do you struggle with that at all? Because I know that you like to sort of get stuck into new projects and try new things whilst balancing that against like
yeah.
keep your business running, keep family happy, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I'm similar to you, I guess. I kind of like thrive in chaos, but
Yeah.
more because I think I like to create order within chaos. I think I guess, if you want to go deep down into the psychology thing, maybe it's to do with childhood and, trauma and feeling validated and heard and seen. And I find enormous satisfaction in creating order out of chaos and organizing things and achieving. And with the consultants in particular, what's really nice is being able to actually help people as well with, what my problem was, right? So I never had a dad, and I never really had a mentor in business. Like I felt like I had to learn everything the hard way, and I feel like there's a lot of people out there that probably, to some degree or some extent, same thing, either from their own stubbornness or for lack of having that kind of guidance. Most people go into life very unprepared and have to go through the lengthy process of fucking up a lot and then having going to fix all of that.
Yeah.
And you know what? I've gone through so much discomfort in my life, which on the one hand has given me enormous tools to be able to deal with problems and now help other businesses with their problems. But at the same time, it's given me a lot of pain that I didn't have to go through. So I've kind of like trying to make it my life work now through consultancy and hopefully some like charitable things at some point. I'd like to talk to schools, but essentially what I want to try and teach people is that, there is a way of succeeding in life that doesn't involve a huge amount of pain. You're always going to need some pain and discomfort for growth. That's just the way that it is, and that's okay. But you don't have to make costly mistakes anymore. And, there are ways to avoid going down certain paths that don't lead to anything other than unnecessary pain. So whether that's in a business context, because we've all been there, we've all done, we've all made decisions that in hindsight, now looking at it, delayed growth by a period of time or created financial losses that in turn created, the kind of growth you didn't want. So, yeah, so that's, for me, that's my driver, is to try and create order in the chaos. And I guess a big part of my life and the way I've made it is I've kind of made it chaotic so that I feel like I'm fulfilled on a daily basis by juggling through all of it
Adding the
and
calm to it. Actually, well,
organizing my time.
that's a really it's like a great also realization, but also a great sort of outcome to sort of, that you work with people. Like, it's like, I'm going to try and bring calm to your chaos and order to it. I think it's actually incredibly appealing, isn't it? Because I think most people, a bit like we said at the beginning, where people operating solo, and it's a lot of it's reassurance or a sounding board. And you said like the lack of mentor and not knowing. And
Yeah.
actually, you find that people are doing a lot of the right things, but it's the reassurance of
Yes,
and to
exactly.
bring that calm to them. Or as you say, if they're chasing 10 things, you're like, well, actually, these are the 5 things to worry about. The others are just noise,
Yeah.
whatever, or get to those in the
Yeah.
but for now, let's hone in on this stuff, and let's just just settle in on that, and and stay steady with that, and you're going to be in a much better place.
I think exactly cutting through the noise and prioritizing. The one thing I do remember from a coach I had once upon a time was the shiny object syndrome, where, especially as business owners, we're business owners for a reason, right? We're entrepreneurial. We like to take risk. We see things that maybe other people don't. We see, and people like me, I kind of see an opportunity in almost everything. And I've got this ridiculous mindset that makes me believe that I can achieve anything. I believe that anyone can achieve anything. So those two combined, if I don't kind of hold myself back, means that I can quite easily find myself getting distracted by all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
And it's taken an enormous amount of time in my own journey of self-awareness and growth to create the right boundaries and the right awareness to know what things to go for or not. And now I've learned actually the power of saying no is actually a superpower.
Yeah.
And it's a superpower that we don't often talk about. And I think that people need to really understand that, because it is a superpower. Saying yes to things, it just dilutes your mission. And so you need to be very selective about what you do say yes to. And actually saying no more creates success way more than it does by getting too distracted along the way.
Yeah, no, well, obviously that's good advice. Of course it's good advice. Actually, it's interesting talking to you because it kind of feels like, obviously everything's set in a business context to begin with, but I feel like for yourself, and again, you might point to a bit of, childhood type stuff, there's a greater thing, which is more reaching the human behind it and working with that person behind it. So not just like that business side of like, look, let's do some business goals, but it sounds to me more like there's a desire to go that little bit deeper and work with the person, find their calm and order them a bit, so that they're actually, as a person, they're then able to run their business more effectively. Does that feel a fair comment?
Yeah, I guess unwillingly, it's just part of me. I'm a very personable guy, I think, in the sense that I don't really have any. I'm a very open-minded guy. I'm someone that will welcome conversations on any subject. Nothing's taboo enough for me. And I think, especially business owners, right? Like, your business is really a direct reflection of your personality, and your personality is shaped by your own inner demons, your own inner dialogue, your lived experiences. So, yeah, I think they go hand in hand. And I think it's often very helpful to understand why things are happening, and also try and help guide that person to understand, perhaps some of these patterns are not going to be helpful for business. And having the right awareness of these patterns can save a significant amount of grief when you're trying to grow a business, like self-limiting beliefs, like certain repetitive patterns that you believe are good or not. They're just deeply ingrained because our mind, unfortunately, is created to protect ourselves. So the way that you do things isn't necessarily always for the best. It's because your mind likes to repeat the pattern of the known. Your mind is always trying to, it's just the way that we've grown evolutionary. It's like that. It's the mind is there to protect you, and if you're not careful, it's also there to destroy you. So just having that awareness can help enormously. It has helped me enormously in not just business but relationships, all kinds of. It's applicable on anything you do in life, and just having that awareness and kind of separating yourself. There's a great book about the, what is it? Is it the chimp? It's about the chimp, the male chimp. No, not male chimp. That's the software for mailing. Bloody hell, what's it called? I'll have to find it and I'll send it to you later,
Yeah.
Ben. But I think you find a lot. It's a great book, and it's about basically your monkey mind, right? And your mind can just run riot without you realizing. And what's been really powerful for me is to learn that actually your mind is in kind of two parts. There's you and there's your mind. They're actually separate entities. And if you understand that, and you're able to actually kind of break the link between the two, you start to control that part of your mind, which is called the monkey mind, which is a bit erratic and a little bit emotionally led, shall we say, but not necessarily there to actually create good outcomes for you. It just likes what it knows, and it likes to repeat those things.
Yeah. I think that's the nut. a thing that you see a lot, isn't it? People do the same thing, and of course, there's definition of madness and all that kind of stuff. But you do see it, you think, why? And you recognize it in yourself. And the thing is that self awareness bit of like, well, I'm doing that again. I want to try and avoid that. And it can be even on a basic thing of work stuff where I don't know, well, we always run that promotion. You be like, but the promotion is pretty crap. It barely delivers for you. Yeah, but it's what we always do. And you think, well, that actually isn't going to get you good. It's never got you good results. And actually, now the business environment's even tougher, it's probably going to only get you worse results. I think if it got you fairly bad results in the best of times, what's it going to do in the worst of times? And I
Oh,
think that's
absolutely.
the key bit, and it feels like that's also applicable. But just in your overall thinking, it's like if well, oh, they're all doing it, I'm going to do the same. But the thing is, most people are probably struggling or wanting to do better. So if you're trying to sort of, copy them, you're probably not in a great place. So it's kind of like, can you bring something new, some fresh thinking to the party? And I think that's probably our job as well, is to sort of challenge some of that, isn't it? And try and break some of those patterns. Sometimes it's like the blind and the obvious thing. There's a reason why people do that stuff, and it is good, solid foundational things. But other times, like, well, actually, you'll find it's not working for them either. So don't try and copy that. Let's try and see what works for you, what's different.
But yeah, you know what? The thing you just said there, actually, Ben, is one of the biggest things, because everyone has a different set of skills. And when you're running a business, particularly small, medium-sized businesses, you're having to wear hats and do jobs that are just not naturally where you would gravitate towards in terms of strength or even wanting to do it. And therefore, those areas often lack the necessary energy and attention that it needs, just because we will naturally gravitate away from it, even though the things that need doing. And I think trying to have those very honest conversations with yourself and guiding people to understanding that, and then doing everything you can to automate or get rid of or employ for someone else or some other system, or create solutions whereby you can concentrate on the things that you know you're good at, and then just stop trying to do the things that you know you're not good at and you're not going to ever give it the energy it needs, and try and find other ways to get those jobs done
I think, and
so
I
you can
guess,
concentrate on your own thing.
yeah,
That's
and I guess what you're in this current moment is that's why you're so excited about AI, because you can see the opportunity to
yeah,
basically outsource the stuff. But before, we would have to be outsourcing to another person who needs a certain amount of
yes,
payment for that. And then you're like, oh God, I'd love
yeah,
to, but I can't actually afford for that person to do it. But it's kind of like, well,
yeah,
actually I can outsource that bit, and it's free, within a reason. Or once I've set it up, then it's a one-off fee, and then it's paid for. Like I help people set up their automated emails for their D2C businesses, for example. And there's a cost obviously involved in that. But then once that's set up, I mean, I would advise you check in on it from time to time. But in theory,
absolutely.
once you've set it up, it's done. So your one-off fee actually then could last you 5 years, 10, whatever you wanted it to. But it's all in place. And I think that's what's so exciting, isn't there, about the new technology, is that there's all sorts of things that previously you may have had to continually employ someone, whether it's fractional or full time, and that's very, very cost prohibitive, or it means that you can't grow your business and another business continues to grow because they're in a slightly bigger position, and that's their kind of advantage. So it also levels that playing field a bit, I guess, doesn't it?
Oh, no, absolutely. I think it's about leveraging time. That's what I sell. I sell techniques. I don't even try and focus on particular products as such in what I sell, but really it's leveraging time, because time in a business context or a personal context is the most expensive thing in life, because it gives no refunds. Time
Yeah.
gives no refunds, and you've literally got a limited amount of time every day, week, month, year to do things. And if you're wasting time on the wrong things, you're never going to get the time back. So anything you can do to free up that time, is incredibly valuable. And for me, for the seafood business, it's allowed me to, run a business more successfully than it ran when I was there 40, 50, 60 hours a week, by me spending anything from 4 to 8 hours a week now on it, because of everything I've set up now, the automation, the lead generation, the systems, the ordering, the there's a lot of stuff that goes on now. That means that no human even has to touch. And let's be honest, those are the jobs that even when you employ people to do, they don't enjoy it. So, and it just means that everyone is enjoying their own role much better, because all those boring, tedious things like with lead generation, for example, the painful thing I was always so bad at is to update your CRM. Every time you call someone, right, make a note, I've called George and he wasn't there. Okay, call him again. Set my calendar, right, call him again in 3 days' time. Next one. Steve, okay, he's not in today, he's away for 3 days. Right. Let me put that in the calendar. It's exhausting.
Yeah, or you think, oh, I remember that. And then, of course, you're like, oh, God, what was, you got no memory of it at all, do you? You think, oh, no.
Exactly. And, nowadays you can reach out to hundreds of people and in a way that's automatic. You can create as many sequences as you want. You can train an AI agent to respond for you in your language, in your tone. You can train the AI agent to have all of your documents, anything you would normally send out. And literally, all for me, in my case, it just means that I do it. The automation does everything for me up until the point they want to talk to someone. And then I jump in and I close the deal. Or oftentimes the deal's closed without me even having to get involved because I've given them the right information that I know they're going to ask for. So account application forms, all of this stuff, automated.
But
Everything.
I think just on that
The whole
though,
funnel.
there's a key bit, isn't there? Because everyone then excited, I've got to do this, but I still feel like, and where the human bit is your experience. Like, but I've set it up to do this because I know that someone's going to ask this, or it would feel weird if that came in this shape and form. So it's still someone guiding, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, so that's
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Ben, what you've touched on is a perfect example of exactly the issue, if you like, with this kind of automation. The problem is there's a lot of people out there that promise these things and they create these big email campaigns and then they get no results because, of course, if you're not careful and if you don't actually study very well what it is that you're trying to do and you're not very targeted and specific, and you're not putting the time in creating the right automations, the right outreach. And the same with like D2C stuff. You segment, you target campaigns according to the customer profile. It's the same with outreach. You've got to make sure that you put in a good amount of time to set it up in such a way that it doesn't become this generic spam that everybody gets in their inbox. You know what I mean? And that's where the beauty is, if you like, in doing it properly. If you do it properly, it's a very, very different thing to this generic emails that we all get and ends up either in spam or we don't even bother reading because the subject header is such bullshit that it just doesn't even warrant opening, right?
Yeah, totally. And you can spot them a mile off. You're like, no, I know exactly what that is. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell me, Ben, what's like, oh, sorry. I wanted to talk about like, we're going off piste a little bit. I wanted to talk about your, can we talk about it? You've got this 90-day challenge I saw on your LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I was commenting on it off camera. If you're happy to talk about it,
no, of course.
We were talking about vulnerability and putting yourself out there, and for you, I guess it's a way of holding yourself accountable and to keep driving it.
Yeah. So
I must admit, I really loved reading your post on that because I thought, you know what, that's such a lovely, humbling way to put yourself out there with so many different meanings behind it. So from an accountability point of view to, I mean, even as a content point of view, I guess it's great to get feedback from people as well and see what people think about it and support, I guess, as well. Tell me more about that and the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, I mean, the reason behind it is, so I went freelance about 18 months ago and I was like, oh, great, I can help lots of people. Runs businesses, got lots of experience, feel pretty personable, I love the challenges. It's like, right, it's going to be great. And then I was like, oh God, actually, don't know where to begin. There's too many people. Do you see what I mean? So there's no kind of so floating around a bit paralyzed by it. So I was like, okay, well, as we touched on earlier, what do I really love? Food and drink, easy to get excited about, easy to relate to people. So I was like, right, I'm going to go food and drink. And then I was like, well, the thing is, there's lots of people helping food and drink businesses who need a bit more niche, a bit more kind of like segmentation, if we like, to break through the noise. And I was like, well, what's the biggest problem I probably solve, which people aren't fixing, if you like? And I was like, email marketing, because most food and drink businesses don't send enough emails. And so that was the area of opportunity, is what I thought. Most people spend all their time worrying about social, but actually the thing that drives the sales is email more often than not. You're one click away from it. It's got more intent. You're not just scrolling. You know what I'm saying. Anyways, but so that's been successful, and I've basically been doing that and helping people. But I've always, I've always offered a broader range of services, And my true passion is actually a bit like the conversations we've been having, is more the one-to-one and figuring out people's challenges and then be like, well, let's see if we can help, or access to people that I know who I might be able to plug in and help you along the way. And using that more generalist marketing sort of background and knowledge and experience. And that's what I
Yeah.
love. So really the 90-day challenge is to try and sort of have a greater part of my business being more that one-to-one mentoring, hands-on support. And again, like we said, tailored very much to your situation rather than just like wheeling out the greatest hits from a couple of books and being like, hey, there you go, good luck. Yeah, oh, it didn't work for you. That's a shame. I don't know, I've run out of ideas. You know what I mean? So trying to keep it very targeted. So, but doing something different and evolving, it takes time. Like it took time to build up a business of people coming to me about email marketing, for example, and that work probably isn't done. But at the same time, I think you've got to listen to what it's finding your own momentum, isn't it? Your own fuel. So if you want to stay freelance, or you want to stay doing your job or running your business, from time to time, you need to add in the next bit that gives you the next bit of fuel to keep you going for the next section. So I was like, well, I really want to do the one-to-one, that, more of that work. And therefore I need to tell people about it, and attract people into my world. And it's easy to give up. So it's like, well, I'm going to do a build it in public challenge because I think it's an effective vehicle. It keeps me accountable. It keeps me checking in, that, oh, well, where have I got to with that? And by setting a time limit, rather than like, because time limit means you've got to get started, but it also means, right, I'm no closer. So next week I need to try this, and this, so you're constantly forcing yourself to try your own tactics live or have your realizations and your learnings and be like, right, well, someone said that to me, which means I'm a bit closer, or I'm nowhere near, or I ran a workshop and no one turned up. That's not a route to go down. So it's learnings all the time, and sharing those in public hopefully encourages people to see a thought process, see a bit of themselves in there. Also to show it's not that, well, it's uncomfortable, but it's not necessarily terrifying to build in public. So that might be a vehicle that you might want to do. As you touched on, from a content point of view, it means you've got stuff to do, you've got stuff to write about, you've got stuff to think about, and that's really helpful. And if I go back to how I opened a restaurant, not the easiest thing to do, but I just started telling everyone I was going to do it, because it was what I was like, it could easily be a conversation down the pub over a few pints. And that's kind of like conversation it probably always was, like, oh, I'm going to start a restaurant one day. And then I was like, right, no, I'm going to stop having it like just as an empty pub conversation and make it a thing. So then I would tell people that's what I'm going to do. Almost in a way, it was an early non-social media form of build it in public and telling people. So for me, I have to sort of, what I've learned is that if I start to box myself in, then it starts to force action from me, because it's easy to then go, oh, well, that happened, or something else has happened, or I'm going to start that tomorrow. But I also know that, doing the thing is, each step gets you further. I'm really believer in like the small wins and the compound effect I'm a huge believer in that. And that's kind of what it's all based around, I guess. So it's kind of like, I'm more likely to get to the end goal if I start today and start small and start working my way towards it and figure out how to get to that point. Do you see what I mean?
And what challenges, or at least what are your biggest challenges, do you think, moving forward for both Bloody Ben's and the consultancy? What does the next 12, 18 months look like for you?
Well, hopefully for Bloody Ben's, hopefully it is a case of, we know the product's brilliant and people absolutely love it, and it solves a problem, particularly in the on-trade and if you're a pub. So it's just, but doing it without that budget to kind of force your way into pub groups, if you like. So we're with a bunch of pub groups, but let's get to more, because we know that the staff really like it and the customers like it. So you've got a product that people enjoy, and also increase spend per head. And it's at a good margin. So it all makes sense. So you've got to create the awareness, but also from a customer point of view, they're very accepting of a bad Bloody Mary. So it's almost like building up, showing people there can be better Bloody Marys. And then also for the staff to know that actually, if they use our Bloody Mary mix, the customers will like it, they'll spend more, and it'll drive more repeat visits. But also it's easy for them to make the Bloody Mary because they just pour the mix into the tomato juice. So it's that on the Bloody Ben side. It's like chipping away, making more people aware of it, both customer and operator, if you like. And we've made great progress on that. And it feels like we're going to make more and more progress on that. It's a real game for us, because we're not doing it with any budget. It's a real sort of like chipping away process, which again is a lovely model to show other people. Of course, we'd love to speed it up. That'd be great. Or spend a load of money and maybe shortcut a few bits. But actually, we're showing another model, and that's great. And then on the consultancy side, it's very much the same. It's kind of like, because I did the restaurants for 9 or 10 years, whilst I got contacts from that, it's a very insular world and you're very much in your own silo. And I wasn't I wasn't working for a marketing agency, for example, and having my clients from there, or I wasn't consulting in anyway. So, and I actually always thought I couldn't be a consultant because I never felt comfortable with the idea. So it's a daily thing for me of I actually really enjoy it and believing in myself. So it's almost like a self journey of discovery and keeping myself on that
Yeah.
to be a consultant, if you like. And I feel much more comfortable with that. And I know that I can help people and I know I can help them get good results. So that's like a really nice place to be in. So it's just working away, building up the network, building up that word of mouth and building up the trust levels, I think is the key.
Nice.
So it feels like, I would say in both cases, it's another year of like working really hard. It's quite granular. It's quite like building network. It's quite one at a time. Do you know what I mean? It's like one pub, one shop, one listing. And then for consultancy, it's like one client, one listing. You see what I mean? It's like, I don't expect, and my mindset has been, which you worry whether that can be limiting, but my mindset is, it's going to be slowly but surely rather than viral hits. That's the way I take it. My only caveat to that is, if you're so obsessed with that and it's always going to be small that you don't see an opportunity to grab that bigger opportunity. So I think you've got to try and keep your eyes open to that as well. I don't know how you feel about that sort of as a statement.
Yeah, I agree. I think, well, I mean, I guess for me, it's a little bit different. I mean, the angle I've got is more of a general kind of approach, I guess, with targeted. I mean, for me, it's more about automation. For me, it's about freeing up time and using the tools to do so. And depending on the business and what their particular pain points are, that's how I kind of tailor make the approach, really. Because some people might be really good at the email marketing side of things already. Some people might be really good at lead generation. Some people might be really good at the production side, because that's another side I do is the actual production side and ordering and the distribution, logistics, that kind of stuff. Then there's also paid ad campaigns. There's the LinkedIn, there's content, social media. Some people just don't have the time and don't enjoy it, like I don't. But we can do the automations for that. So, yeah, I guess my angle is more about really getting to know people and their business well, and then seeing if I'm actually the right fit as well, because that's another one. I'm not going to be the right fit for everything.
Well, I wonder whether our conversations ended up being more two consultants figuring it out live.
Well, that's the beauty of the podcast, to be honest.
Really,
Ben, I think it's, you know what it is? It's, I guess, the part that I think is the common theme, and it's starting to be seen develop more over the podcast I do. It's, I like to understand the person behind the business rather than the business necessarily all the time, because for me it's about inspiring people as well. Because too many people, you've seen this a million times, right? Down the pub, everyone's got a great idea, everyone wants to do this, or even older people wish I'd done that. And the point is that what is it that takes a person like you and I to do these things over the other person that stays in the comfort zone of being employed but miserable, right? So I hope that through these kind of very honest, open conversations, we can inspire people to, and your true calling might not be running a business, but it might be something completely different that you've not, for whatever reason, had the courage to do so. And I think talking about our experiences, your business ideas, how it's performing and the why, I think brings it home more, because so many people think that to start these businesses requires this enormous amount of X, Y, and Z. And yes, it could be like that. But at the same time, actually, particularly in the food, drink, and hospitality sectors, the entry level is actually almost zero. If you wanted to try a food product idea, it costs almost nothing to go to a local farmer's market, get yourself a stall, set up a table, and get people trying your product. And that is going to be the best product launch you'll ever have in terms of cost and feedback, because you'll know straight away if somebody's there buying it and you've done a good job in presenting it and selling it and it's got legs, then great. The next step up.
Yeah.
But the point is that, or even with the consultancy, you and I at some point started with zero. So it's doable and it's achievable. And you've just got to start somewhere. Yeah, that's really where the conversation is at. I think it's kind of breaking down barriers, letting people know that, everyone that's doing all these things, they're just like you and I. We're all just human beings trying to do our thing, and you don't have to overthink it.
I think that's totally on the same page, really. My thing would be to encourage you to go and do the thing. And that's, if I've got one thing in life, it's like to try and give someone the confidence and the momentum to go and try that thing, because they might And it might not be the thing, but at least they'll learn more from trying it. And to not sit back and go, oh, I wish I'd done this. It's like, well, like, can I help you try and give it a go? And that's kind of like almost where I'm at, like the leg up to be like, let's go for it. I'm going to give you some confidence, going to give you some starting points to get you going, or to get you a little bit further ahead and see where you get to it. But you can definitely do it. And you'll know lots of people who really talented people, and you think, goodness, they'd be great. They should just go for it, but they're held back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's exactly that. It's exactly right.
Or they're sitting on something brilliant
then,
and they just need to push it a bit harder. That's the other one. You're like, my God, that's such a great thing. You've started a little bit. Just go, now let's just kick it on another level.
well, that's exactly key, actually, because there's another famous book called What Got You There? No, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And that was a really good book exactly about this, that you constantly reach a plateau of what worked before will no longer work as it was. And you need to then step up. And it's like, it's growing pains all the time. It's like a crab shedding its shell. And, using people like us along the way to get to that next stage quicker, more smoothly, can be quite pivotal in the way the business is going to function. And like you say, we might be able to help somebody get to a certain level, and then beyond that, there'll be somebody else that can help. And that's quite nice to know that there is support out there. There are ways to do these things.
Brilliant. All right. Well, that feels like a very natural ending point, doesn't it, Sebastian?
Yeah, I think it's been brilliant to have you on the show. I think your journey really captures what the London Food Network is all about. Passion, persistence, and helping others rise up through experience and collaboration. For everyone listening, go check out Bloody Ben's at bloodybens.com for a proper taste of creativity in a bottle. And if you're a food and drink business looking to grow, visit, I believe it's stand.store /.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, or find me on LinkedIn and drop me a DM and we'll take it from there.
Right. Well, of course, I'll plug you on all the different platforms once we launch all of this. But there's been a ton of value in what you're building here, Ben. I really appreciate your time. And this episode was brought by Embrace AI Consultancy, where we help food and hospitality businesses streamline their marketing, sales, and operations through AI automation. Thanks for tuning in for the London Food Network. Don't forget to follow, share, and join the community on LinkedIn, Spotify, and YouTube. And we shall see you on the next episode. Thank you, Ben.
Brilliant. Thanks so much. Cheers now.